The evening sky had turned a deep purple as Officer Tom Wilson checked his watch. Just 30 more minutes and his shift would be over. It had been a quiet Tuesday in the small town of Riverdale, the kind of day where the biggest excitement was helping Mrs. Jenkins find her wandering cat. Tom sipped the last of his now-cold coffee and started filling out paperwork in his patrol car, parked near the town square. The radio crackled to life. Unit 14, we've got a call about strange noises at 1487 Pine Road, the old Winters property. Neighbor reports scratching and possible crying sounds. Can you check it out? Tom sighed and put his pen down. The Winters house had been empty since old Mr. Winters passed away about 4 months back. Kids often dared each other to sneak onto the property, claiming it was haunted. This was probably just another false alarm, but he couldn't ignore it. Copy that. I'm on my way, Tom replied, starting his engine. The digital clock on his dashboard read 9:42 p.m. So much for getting home on time. As he drove through the quiet streets, Tom thought about the dinner waiting for him in the fridge. His wife Lisa had promised to save him a plate of her famous meatloaf. His stomach growled at the thought. 12 years on the force, and he still wasn't used to these unpredictable hours. The Winters property came into view as Tom turned onto Pine Road. It sat at the end of the street, partially hidden by overgrown trees. The 2-story house looked sad and neglected, with peeling white paint and shutters hanging crooked from the windows. Unlike the other homes on the street with their neatly trimmed lawns and warm porch lights, this place seemed to belong to another time. Tom pulled into the gravel driveway and cut the engine. Before he could even get out, a woman in a pink bathrobe came hurrying from the house next door, her hair in curlers and a flashlight clutched in her hand. "Officer, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Rose Chen. I called about the noises," she said, slightly out of breath. Tom nodded politely. "Evening, ma'am. Can you tell me what you heard exactly?" The woman pointed toward the back of the abandoned house. "It started yesterday, just some scratching sounds. I thought it might be raccoons or maybe a stray dog. But tonight, I swear I heard crying. It didn't sound like an animal, if you know what I mean." Tom had heard all kinds of stories during his years as a cop. People often imagined things, especially around old empty houses. But Mrs. Chen didn't seem like the type to make up stories. "How long have you been hearing these sounds?" he asked, taking out his notebook. 2 days now, and they seem to be getting louder." She wrapped her robe tighter around herself. "I probably sound crazy, but something doesn't feel right." "You did the right thing by calling," Tom assured her. "I'll take a look around. Why don't you head back inside where it's warm? I'll come let you know what I find." Mrs. Chen nodded gratefully and headed back to her house, but not before adding, "Be careful, officer. That place gives me the creeps even in broad daylight." Tom grabbed his flashlight from the car and switched it on. The beam cut through the darkness as he walked around the property. Everything looked undisturbed. No broken windows, no pried open doors. The grass was overgrown, but there were no obvious footprints or signs that anyone had been there recently. Just as he was about to write it off as the wind playing tricks, he heard it, a soft whimpering sound, so faint he almost missed it. Tom froze, listening hard. There it was again, coming from somewhere near the back porch. His heart started beating faster. In all his years on the force, Tom had developed a sort of sixth sense about calls. What had seemed like a routine check suddenly felt different. He unclipped the safety strap on his holster and moved carefully toward the sound, his flashlight beam sweeping across the ground. The back porch was sagging in places, its wooden steps rotting. As Tom got closer, the sound became clearer. It was definitely crying, a human sound, small and frightened. It seemed to be coming from underneath the porch. Tom knelt down and pointed his flashlight into the darkness below. What he saw next would change everything. Tom's flashlight beam caught a pair of wide, frightened eyes staring back at him from beneath the porch. He nearly dropped the light in shock. "Hello," he called softly, his voice gentle. "I'm a police officer. I'm here to help." There was no answer, just more whimpering. Tom lowered himself to his stomach to get a better look. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he could make out the shape of a small child, huddled against the dirt foundation. It was a boy, maybe 4 or 5 years old, his clothes filthy and torn. He was trembling, arms wrapped tightly around something pressed against his chest. "Hey there, buddy," Tom said, keeping his voice calm despite the alarm bells ringing in his head. "My name's Officer Tom. What's your name?" The boy just stared, saying nothing. His face was streaked with dirt and tears. "It's okay to be scared," Tom continued, "but I promise I won't hurt you. I want to help you get somewhere safe and warm." Tom reached his hand out slowly, but the boy pressed himself further back against the foundation wall. That's when Tom noticed what the child was holding so protectively. It was a baby, wrapped in what looked like a tattered blanket. His training kicked in immediately. Tom pulled back and grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 14. I need an ambulance at 1487 Pine Road immediately. I've got 2 minors in need of medical attention. Repeat, 2 children, 1 appears to be an infant." "Copy that, Unit 14. Ambulance and backup are on the way. ETA 8 minutes." Tom returned to the opening beneath the porch. "Help is coming, buddy, but I'd really like to get you both out of there now. It's not safe under there." The space between the ground and the bottom of the porch was tight, too small for Tom to crawl through with his gear on. He quickly removed his utility belt and jacket, setting them aside. The night air bit through his uniform shirt, but he barely noticed. "I'm coming in to help you, okay?" he said, lying flat and beginning to shimmy into the cramped space. The dirt was cold and damp against his chest. Cobwebs caught in his hair, and something skidded away from his light, probably a spider. The smell of mold and decay filled his nostrils as he inched forward. The boy watched him approach, eyes never leaving Tom's face. When Tom was about 3 feet away, he stopped, not wanting to frighten the child more. "Can I see the baby?" Tom asked gently. "I want to make sure you're both okay." To his surprise, the boy slowly unwrapped the bundle in his arms. The baby's face was tiny and pale in the flashlight beam. Its eyes were closed, lips slightly blue. Tom's heart dropped. "How long has the baby been like this?" "Since morning," the boy whispered, his voice so quiet Tom barely heard it. "She won't wake up to eat." "What's her name?" Tom asked, inching closer. "Lily. I'm Danny." "Danny, you've been very brave taking care of Lily," Tom said, now close enough to reach out. "But she needs a doctor right away. Will you let me help you both?" Danny looked down at his sister, then back at Tom. Slowly, he nodded. "Good boy," Tom said. "I'm going to pick up Lily first and then help you out, okay?" With gentle hands, Tom took the baby. She was lighter than he expected, her tiny body cool to the touch. He could feel a faint heartbeat, but her breathing was shallow. Tom carefully backed out from under the porch with Lily cradled against his chest. The moment he emerged, he heard sirens in the distance. He quickly wrapped the baby in his jacket and hurried to the front of the house where the ambulance would arrive. Mrs. Chen was standing on her front lawn in her bathrobe, mouth open in shock as she saw what Tom was carrying. "Oh my God," she gasped. "Is that? There's another child under the porch," Tom said quickly. "Can you hold the baby while I get him out?" Mrs. Chen held out her arms without hesitation. "Of course." Tom carefully transferred the tiny bundle to her. "Keep her warm. The ambulance is almost here." He raced back to the porch just as Danny's small face appeared at the opening. The boy had started crawling out on his own. "That's it," Tom encouraged, kneeling down. "You're doing great." Danny emerged, blinking in the moonlight. His legs wobbled as he tried to stand. Tom noticed with a pang that the boy wasn't wearing shoes, his small feet dirty and scratched. Without thinking twice, Tom scooped him up. Danny stiffened at first, then wrapped his skinny arms around Tom's neck and began to sob. "It's okay now," Tom whispered, his own throat tight with emotion. "You're safe. Both of you are safe." As the ambulance pulled up, lights flashing across the overgrown yard, Tom held Danny close, wondering how these children had ended up alone and what horrors they might have endured. The ambulance lights painted the street red and blue as paramedics rushed toward them. Tom stood with Danny in his arms, the boy's small body still trembling against his chest. Mrs. Chen hurried over with baby Lily wrapped in Tom's jacket. "Over here," Tom called to the paramedics. "The baby needs immediate attention." A female paramedic with short blonde hair took Lily first, her experienced hands quickly checking vital signs. How long has she been unresponsive? She asked, already moving toward the ambulance. The boy says since morning, Tom replied, following close behind with Danny. Her partner, a tall man with glasses, reached for Danny. Let's check you out too, little guy. Danny clung tighter to Tom, burying his face in the officer's shoulder. I think he's scared, Tom explained. Mind if I stay with him? The paramedic nodded. Of course. Inside the ambulance, the team worked quickly. The female paramedic, whose name tag read Beth, had already hooked Lily up to an oxygen mask. The tiny mask nearly covered the baby's whole face. She's severely dehydrated, Beth said, but she's hanging in there. We need to get her to the hospital right away. Her partner tried to coax Danny onto the stretcher, but the boy refused to let go of Tom. It's okay, Tom said softly. I'll hold him on my lap. Just check him over. As the paramedic examined Danny, Tom noticed things he'd missed in the darkness under the porch. The boy was thin, too thin. His arms and legs looked like twigs, and his collarbone stuck out sharply beneath his dirty t-shirt. There were small bruises on his arms, some old, some newer. When's the last time you ate something, Danny? Tom asked gently. Danny shrugged. Yesterday, I think. I found some crackers in a cupboard. The paramedic and Tom exchanged worried glances. And what about Lily? What has she been eating? The paramedic asked. I found some baby food in cans, Danny said, his voice small. But it ran out. I tried giving her water from the sink, but she wouldn't drink much. Tom felt his chest tighten. Where are your mom and dad, buddy? Danny's lower lip trembled. Dad left us in the house. He said he'd come back with food, but he didn't come back. How long ago was that? Tom asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the anger building inside him. Lots of days, Danny whispered. I counted 6 sunsets. 6 days. These children had been abandoned for nearly a week. Tom swallowed hard, fighting back emotions that threatened to overwhelm his professional demeanor. You did a great job taking care of your sister, he told Danny, meaning every word. You're a very brave boy. As the ambulance sped toward the hospital, Tom's radio crackled. His sergeant, Officer Ray Powell, had arrived at the Winters property. Wilson, what's the situation there? Powell's gruff voice came through. Tom shifted Danny slightly so he could reach his radio. 2 abandoned children, Sarge. A boy about 4 or 5 and a baby girl, maybe 6 months old. They were under the porch of the Winters place. I'm headed to the hospital with them now. Any sign of the parents? Negative. The boy says his father left them about 6 days ago. There was a pause before Powell responded. Understood. I'll secure the scene and start a full investigation. Social services has been notified. Tom looked down at Danny, who had finally relaxed enough to rest his head against Tom's chest. His eyes were drooping with exhaustion. We'll take good care of them, Beth said quietly, adjusting Lily's IV line. Poor little mites. The baby's breathing is getting stronger, her partner added, checking the monitors. Kids are tough. They'd bounce back. Tom nodded, but his mind was racing. What kind of person leaves their children alone for days? In an abandoned house, no less. He'd seen a lot in his years as a cop, but this cut deep. The ambulance pulled up to the emergency entrance. As the back doors swung open, doctors and nurses were already waiting. I need to stay with them, Tom told Beth as she prepared to wheel Lily inside. She gave him an understanding look. Follow me. The boy seems attached to you. Tom carried Danny through the automatic doors into the bright lights of the hospital. The boy squinted, probably his first time in proper light for days. You're not leaving, right? Danny whispered, his fingers digging into Tom's uniform. No way, buddy, Tom assured him. I'm sticking right by your side. The hospital hallway buzzed with activity as nurses rushed back and forth. Tom sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair outside the examination room where doctors were checking Danny and Lily. He promised Danny he wouldn't leave, and he meant to keep that promise. Tom rubbed his tired eyes and checked his watch, 11:45 p.m. His shift had ended hours ago. He'd called Lisa to let her know what happened, and she understood completely. Those poor babies, she'd said, her voice breaking. You stay as long as they need you. A doctor in blue scrubs pushed through the swinging doors. Her name tag read Dr. Chen, No relation to the neighbor, Tom guessed, just a coincidence. "Officer Wilson?" she asked, looking at Tom's uniform. Tom stood up quickly. "Yes. How are they?" Dr. Chen's face was serious but not grim. "Baby Lily is responding well to fluids and nutrition. She was severely dehydrated and malnourished, but we caught it in time. She's being moved to the pediatric ward for monitoring." "And Danny?" "He's also malnourished, with minor cuts and bruises consistent with living in rough conditions. But physically, he'll recover quickly with proper care." She paused. "Emotionally may be another story. He's asking for you." Tom nodded. "Can I see them?" "Of course. Follow me." They walked down the hallway to a small room where Danny sat on an examination table, now dressed in clean hospital pajamas that hung loose on his skinny frame. A nurse was trying to get him to drink from a juice box, but he was looking anxiously at the door. When he spotted Tom, his face lit up. "You stayed." "Of course I did, buddy. I told you I would." Tom walked over and sat beside the table. "How are you feeling?" "Better. They gave me a bath and food." Danny looked around. "Where's Lily?" "She's in a special room for babies," Tom explained. "The doctors are taking good care of her." "Can I see her?" Tom looked at Dr. Chen, who nodded. "We can arrange that." A soft knock at the door interrupted them. A woman in her 40s with curly brown hair stepped into the room. She wore a cardigan and carried a folder. "Hello, I'm Nancy from Child Protective Services," she said warmly. "And you must be Danny." Danny shrank back against the pillow, his eyes darting nervously to Tom. "It's okay," Tom assured him. "Ms. Nancy is here to help figure out what happens next." Nancy approached slowly and sat in a chair nearby. "Danny, I know you've been through a lot. You're very brave for taking care of your sister." Danny didn't respond, just watched her warily. "Can you tell me your full name?" Nancy asked gently. "And your sister's?" "Daniel Robert Walker," the boy answered quietly. "My sister is Lily Ann Walker." "Thank you, that's very helpful," Nancy smiled. "Do you know your dad's full name?" "Richard Walker, but everyone calls him Rick." Tom listened carefully. This information would help them track down the father who had abandoned his children. "And your mom?" Nancy asked. Danny's lower lip trembled. "She went to heaven last year. Dad said she got sick." Nancy made notes in her folder, her expression sympathetic. "Do you have any grandparents or aunts or uncles?" Danny shook his head. "Just me and Dad and Lily." Tom felt a heaviness in his chest. No extended family made the situation more complicated. "What's going to happen to us?" Danny asked, his voice small. Nancy looked at Tom, then back to Danny. "Well, you and Lily need a safe place to stay while we try to find your dad." "What if he doesn't come back?" Danny's eyes filled with tears. He promised, but he didn't come back. Tom couldn't stop himself from reaching out to hold Danny's hand. The boy's fingers curled around his instantly. "We'll make sure you and your sister are safe and together," Tom said firmly. "That's a promise." Nancy smiled at Tom, then turned to Danny. "Officer Tom is right. Our job is to keep you and Lily safe and together." "Will I have to go back under the porch?" Danny asked, fear creeping into his voice. "No, never again," Tom assured him. Dr. Chen, who had been standing quietly by the door, stepped forward. "Danny should get some rest now. He's had quite an ordeal." "Can Officer Tom stay?" Danny asked quickly, his grip tightening on Tom's hand. Nancy and Dr. Chen exchanged glances. "I don't mind," Tom said. "At least until he falls asleep." Dr. Chen nodded. That would be fine. As the others left the room, Tom helped Danny lie back on the pillows. The boy's eyelids were already drooping with exhaustion. "I won't let anything bad happen to you or Lily," Tom whispered. "You can rest now." For the first time, Danny gave a tiny smile before his eyes closed completely. Tom woke with a stiff neck, still sitting in the chair beside Danny's hospital bed. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, painting stripes across the floor. He checked his watch, 7:15 a.m. Danny was still sleeping, his small chest rising and falling peacefully. A nurse tiptoed in with a breakfast tray. "You stayed all night," she whispered, looking surprised. Tom nodded, stretching his arms. "Couldn't bring myself to leave him. How's the baby doing?" "Lily's doing much better this morning. She's taking formula now." The nurse smiled. "Would you like some coffee? You look like you could use it." "That would be amazing, thanks." After the nurse left, Tom's phone buzzed. It was a text from Sergeant Powell. "Found the father. Picked up last night for drunk driving in Millfield, 30 miles away. He's in county lockup. Call me." Tom stepped into the hallway to make the call, keeping an eye on Danny through the door window. "What else do we know about this guy?" Tom asked when Powell answered. "Richard Walker, age 31. Lost his job 6 months ago. Wife died of cancer 8 months back. He's got priors for public intoxication and 1 domestic call before his wife died. When we told him about the kids, he broke down crying. Said he left them just for a day to look for work and started drinking when he couldn't find any. 1 day turned into 6. Tom clenched his jaw. He left a 4-year-old in charge of a baby. "I know," Powell sighed. "DA's pressing charges for child endangerment and abandonment. CPS is already filing to terminate parental rights." "Good," Tom said firmly. "Those kids deserve better." When he returned to the room, Danny was sitting up, picking at the scrambled eggs on his tray. "Morning, buddy," Tom said, putting on a smile. "How are you feeling today?" "Better," Danny said. "Can I see Lily now?" "Tell you what," Tom said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Eat at least half of those eggs, and I'll take you to see her right after." Danny immediately scooped a big bite into his mouth, making Tom laugh. While Danny ate, Nancy from CPS arrived with a woman Tom hadn't met before. "Officer Wilson, this is Amy Jenkins, one of our emergency foster parents," Nancy explained. "She has experience with young children and can take both Danny and Lily once they're discharged." Amy, a friendly-looking woman in her early 40s, smiled warmly. "I have a spare bedroom already, and we still have a crib from when our youngest was a baby." Tom felt a strange twist in his gut at the thought of the children going with this stranger, kind as she seemed. He'd become attached to them in just 1 night. "When would that be?" he asked. "The doctor thinks Lily needs another day or 2, but Danny could be released tomorrow," Nancy explained. "We thought maybe Amy could meet him today, start building trust." Tom nodded, though something didn't sit right. He looked at Danny, happily finishing his eggs, unaware that decisions about his future were being made right outside his door. "Mind if I talk to him first? Break the ice a bit?" Tom suggested. Nancy nodded. "Of course." Tom went back to Danny's bedside. "Finished your breakfast? Great job. Listen, buddy, I need to talk to you about something." Danny looked up, sensing Tom's serious tone. "You and Lily need a place to stay for a while, and there's a nice lady named Amy who has a home where you both can be safe and cared for." Danny's face fell. "We can't stay with you." The question hit Tom like a punch to the stomach. He hadn't expected it, though maybe he should have. I work long hours, buddy. I wouldn't be able to take good care of you," Tom said, though the words felt hollow even to his own ears. Danny's eyes filled with tears. "But you promised to keep us safe." "And I will," Tom assured him. "I'll check on you and make sure you're okay." Danny looked down at his lap, silent tears falling onto the hospital blanket. Tom felt his own eyes burning. "Can I meet Lily now?" Danny asked quietly. "Of course," Tom said, grateful for the change of subject. "Let me get a wheelchair for you." As they wheeled down the hallway toward the pediatric ward where Lily was being kept, Tom couldn't shake a growing feeling in his chest. For the first time in years, he found himself questioning his life, his choices, his future. When they reached Lily's room and saw the baby girl now alert and cooing in her crib, Danny's face lit up. "She's better." "She is," Tom agreed, lifting Danny so he could see his sister better. Watching the siblings together, Tom made a decision that surprised even himself. "Danny," he said softly, what if there was another option?" That evening, Tom paced back and forth in his living room, while his wife Lisa sat quietly on the couch, watching him with worried eyes. "You want us to become foster parents, just like that?" Lisa asked, her voice soft but uncertain. Tom stopped pacing and sat beside her, taking her hands in his. "I know it sounds crazy. We've talked about having kids for years, but this is different. If you'd seen them, Lisa, if you'd seen how that little boy cared for his baby sister in impossible conditions." Lisa squeezed his hands. "I'm not saying no, Tom. I'm just saying it's a huge decision to make in one day." Danny asked if they could stay with me, Tom said, his voice cracking slightly. The look in his eyes when I told him they couldn't, I can't get it out of my head. Lisa leaned forward and touched his cheek. You've always had such a big heart. It's why I married you. We have the spare bedroom, Tom continued eagerly. And we could convert the office into a nursery for Lily. I know it's fast, but these kids need someone now, not months from now after they've been bounced around the system. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Tom knew that look. She was thinking deeply, considering all angles as she always did. What about your job? The late nights, the unpredictable schedule. I've got vacation time saved up. I could take a few weeks while we adjust. And after that, maybe I could talk to Powell about switching to day shift. Lisa nodded slowly. And what about the father? Wouldn't he have to agree to this? Tom sighed. He's facing serious charges. Even if he gets minimal jail time, CPS won't return the kids to him anytime soon, if ever. Lisa stood up and walked to the window, looking out at their small but well-kept yard. The swing set they'd optimistically installed 2 years ago sat unused, waiting for children who never came. We should meet them first, she finally said, turning back to Tom. Both of us. If we're going to do this, we need to be sure it's right for everyone. Tom jumped up and wrapped his arms around her. Really? You're considering it? Lisa smiled against his shoulder. Those children touched your heart for a reason, Tom. Maybe this is the family we've been waiting for, just not in the way we expected. The next morning, Tom brought Lisa to the hospital. They stopped first at the nursery to see Lily. The baby was awake in her crib, looking much healthier than when Tom had first found her. Her cheeks had more color, and she waved her tiny fists in the air when she saw them. She's beautiful, Lisa whispered, reaching down to let Lily grab her finger. Tom watched his wife's face, saw the love already blooming there, and felt a surge of hope. Next, they went to Danny's room. The boy was sitting up in bed, coloring in a book one of the nurses had brought him. When he saw Tom, his whole face lit up. Officer Tom, you came back. I promised I would, didn't I? Tom said, sitting on the edge of the bed. And I brought someone special I want you to meet. This is my wife, Lisa. Lisa sat down beside Tom. Hi, Danny. I've heard so much about you. Danny studied her cautiously. Are you a police officer too? Lisa laughed. No, I'm a teacher. I teach 2nd grade. That's like for 7-year-olds, right? Danny asked. I'm almost 5. That's right, Lisa said, impressed. You're very smart. Danny beamed at the compliment. Then his face grew serious. Did Officer Tom tell you about me and Lily? He did, Lisa nodded. He told me how brave you were, taking care of your sister all by yourself. Danny looked down at his coloring book. I tried really hard, but I was scared. Lily kept crying, and I didn't know what to do. Lisa reached out slowly and placed her hand over Danny's small one. You did an amazing job. Most grown-ups wouldn't have known what to do either. Danny looked up at her, then at Tom. Did you tell her about the nice lady who's going to take us? Tom and Lisa exchanged glances. Actually, Tom said carefully, Lisa and I wanted to talk to you about that. What would you think about coming to stay with us instead? We have a nice house with a yard and a swing set. Danny's eyes widened. Both me and Lily? Together? Of course together, Lisa assured him. We wouldn't separate you two. Would it be forever? Danny asked, his voice small and hopeful. Tom felt a lump form in his throat. We'd like it to be, if that's what you want to. Danny looked from Tom to Lisa and back again. His lower lip trembled as he whispered, I want that a lot. 6 months later, Tom stood in the doorway of Danny's bedroom, watching as Lisa tucked the boy into bed. The room had transformed from a plain guest room into a child's paradise, with space-themed wallpaper and shelves lined with books and toys. A night light shaped like a police car cast a soft blue glow across the floor. Can we have pancakes for breakfast tomorrow? Danny asked, his eyes already heavy with sleep. Sure thing, buddy, Lisa smiled, smoothing his hair. What kind? Blueberry, and can Lily have some too? We'll mash some up for her, Lisa promised. She's starting to try real food now. Tom stepped into the room as Lisa bent down to kiss Danny's forehead. Sleep tight, don't let the bedbugs bite. Night, Mom, Danny said sleepily, the words still new on his tongue. They had only started using the terms mom and dad a few weeks ago after the judge had approved their foster-to-adopt application. Lisa moved past Tom with a smile and a squeeze of his hand. "Your turn," she whispered. Tom sat on the edge of Danny's bed. "All comfy?" Danny nodded, clutching the stuffed dog that hadn't left his side since they'd bought it on his first day home with them. "Dad, can I ask you something?" Tom still felt a warm rush whenever Danny called him that. "Anything, buddy." "Do you think my first dad will ever come back?" The question caught Tom off guard. They had explained to Danny that his father had made some bad choices and couldn't take care of him and Lily right now. Richard Walker had agreed to the adoption, signing away his parental rights from jail with tears in his eyes, telling the social worker he wanted his kids to have the stable home he couldn't provide. "Your first dad loves you very much," Tom said carefully. "But sometimes grown-ups have problems that make it hard for them to take care of kids. That's why Lisa and I are your parents now." Danny seemed to consider this. "But you won't get problems, right?" Tom leaned down and hugged him. "Everyone has problems sometimes, Danny. But Lisa and I promise we will always be here for you and Lily, no matter what." This seemed to satisfy the boy, who yawned widely. "Good night, Dad." "Good night, son," Tom whispered, the word feeling right in his mouth. In the hallway, he peeked into the nursery where Lily was already fast asleep in her crib. At 10 months old, she was a happy, healthy baby who showed no signs of her rough start in life. She had recently started crawling and was keeping them all on their toes. Tom found Lisa in the living room, curled up on the couch with a photo album open on her lap. She'd been documenting everything since the children had come to live with them: their first day home, Lily's first tooth, Danny's first day at preschool. "He called me Mom again," Lisa said softly as Tom sat beside her. "I don't think I'll ever get tired of hearing it." "Me neither," Tom agreed, looking at the album. The page showed photos from the adoption hearing 3 weeks ago. Danny grinning in his little suit, Lily in a frilly dress, all of them standing with the judge. Their first official family portrait. Next to it was a much different photo. Tom in his uniform the night he found the children, holding Danny wrapped in a hospital blanket while a nurse held Lily. They all looked exhausted and shell-shocked. "It's hard to believe it's only been 6 months," Tom said, tracing the edge of the photo. "I feel like they've always been ours." Lisa leaned her head on his shoulder. "I think they were meant to be, if you hadn't answered that call that night." Tom didn't want to think about what might have happened. Instead, he focused on how a routine noise complaint had changed everything. He thought about Mrs. Chen from next door to the Winters house, who now baked cookies for Danny every time they went to visit. About Sergeant Powell, who had become Uncle Ray and spoiled the kids rotten. About how his whole world had shifted on its axis in the best possible way. "I got a call from the department today," Tom said after a moment. "Remember that program we talked about? The one where officers work with Child Protective Services on welfare checks." Lisa looked up at him. "They approved it." Tom nodded. "Starting next month, I'll be the first officer assigned to the pilot program. Regular hours, no more night shifts, and I'll be helping other kids like Danny and Lily." Lisa threw her arms around him. "That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you." Later that night, as they lay in bed, Tom found himself thinking about the strange twists life could take. How sometimes the worst situations could lead to the greatest blessings. How a simple call about strange noises had led him to the family he always wanted.